on the clock, doon doon doon, whatever that the sound is. Let's go to the GM
You
of
might
the
have to put that in yourself. I don't
yeah.
know if the viewership is gonna like the Pat Horn doing it.
Doon doon doon.
Now,
Sending it over to the temporary Titans GM.
the temporary Titans GM right here. Now, this looks like it's happening just kind of based off of everything that we've heard to this point. This is based off the amount of time I think the Titans have spent with this guy, coming to the conclusion that, Brian Callahan thinks this is the guy that's going to turn the course of their franchise. This would be unless someone comes at them with an offer to trade up for that number one pick. Titans taking Cam Ward at number one.
No
Feels like
qualms
the most
there.
likely pick for sure at this
Yep.
point.
Seems pretty simple.
Simple. Keep it simple.
This is where it gets interesting.
Yeah. So I'll go right into pick number 2. It's only 2 guys for me, Abdul Carter or Travis right here at the top. Andrew Berry's in love with him, so I'm going to go Travis Hunter. They need a receiver.
And a corner.
As the token Browns fan on here, I'll just add they need a receiver, and I also think there may be packages where you could see Travis Hunter out there on defense. I think his versatility would be great for the Browns. Wait to take a quarterback later in the draft. I think it's a good pick, Trishan. And dun 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 dun, I'm up at number 3. At number 3 for the New York Giants. This is based off of what has won for the Giants in the past. What has won their last 2 titles for them? Their front 7. If Travis Hunter were here and Abdul Carter goes at 2, I think that's the logical pick. It's kind of a coin flip, but how this is breaking down, what I have for them, they take the best edge player on the board, taking Abdul Carter out of Penn State. And add to a defense that they have already invested a lot of money in to help out with Brian Burns. It's going to be something to watch out for.
Potential Kevon Thibodeau trade if that scenario plays out, I think, but we shall see. I like the pick.
Chicago, Baltimore, any teams you like for Kayvon Thibodeau if they make that offer?
I don't know. Are we absolutely positive they would move off Thibodeau if that happens? I mean,
I don't know.
You can't have – I don't know if Thibodeau's a guy that needs to be a starter in the league. I think he's got potential, but he could definitely be a rotational piece as well. And I was going to say I don't think that having Thibodeau on your team precludes you from going after Carter or keeping Thibodeau after the fact.
Well, Thibodeau is going into his 4th year now, right? If I'm not mistaken, 3rd year. Yeah. So he's got to be coming up on contract extension time. They still have the 5th year option. I would have to imagine that he won't be getting an extension if they do draft Abdul Carter just for money reasons, but that definitely won't stop them from keeping him on the roster for this upcoming year. That would be terrifying, indeed, a terrifying rotation up front.
And if we've seen anything from the Eagles, we know that you can never have too much talent up front, which is going to be key if we can move on to my next pick as the temporary GM of the New England Patriots. You got to protect Drake May. This does not shake out ideally for them. They don't need a quarterback. Shedeur is right there. Possibly entertain a trade here if you think that you can get, entice a team like the Raiders, a team like the Saints. Who knows if the Steelers want to come up that far? That'd be something crazy. But at this point, you need to protect Drake May. I think the simplest answer to that is going with the guy who may be undersized, may have shorter arms, but has the best tape of anybody in this class and has shown you that he can consistently perform against top talent in the SEC for years. I mean, he arrived at LSU and was a starter as a freshman. It's Will Campbell. Don't overthink this pick. It's not the sexy pick, but ideally you get a great offensive tackle. If it doesn't work out, you get a great offensive guard. So they need talent up front on that offensive line. They need to invest in it. And history has shown that if you're going to invest in the O-line, you should be doing it in round 1. You don't want to risk getting the bottom of the barrel in round 2. So they take the most talented offensive tackle with the best tape in Will Campbell.
Undersized but strength. The same kind of Max Preps hit words that they had for Turtle Pendergast coming out of Montini High at safety.
I mean, I would hope so. I would hope so. I put my heart and soul on the line. Anyway, I could see a little bit of Ashton Genty at 4, possibly just because of Derrick Henry and the Mike Vrabel deal. But I'm with you on Will Campbell. I like that pick, and I think the signing of Stephon Diggs kind of takes the Tet McMillans of the world kind of out at that pick. So I am good with it.
Yeah, and they've addressed the defensive line as well. Their defense is very much improved, so I do think that offensive line is the logical pick there. Moving on to Mike.
Moving on to me. At number 5, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, in all honesty, I really do think they may move down from this pick, but what I had it mocked with was possibly them going to 10. But if you're gonna pick here, what I'm thinking, if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, is you're gonna want to help out your passing game, get someone on the other side from Brian Thomas, and that's going to be Tet McMillan, giving him a 1-2 punch with a 50-50 playmaking ability to help out Trevor Lawrence. Like I said, I had them possibly mocked to move down to 10, possibly see a trade up in this situation. But if I'm picking for the Jaguars, I'm picking the best player for their situation, which I think would be Tet McMillan, to give more outside help to Trevor Lawrence and to help out with Brian Thomas, give him that second weapon.
Wow, I feel like a lot of people have Mason Graham going there, but you can't argue with giving your quarterback as many top flight options as possible. So it'll be interesting to see where Graham falls with that pick.
I like that scenario you mentioned, Mike, because honestly, I feel like they could trade back to number 10 and still get Tet McMillan there potentially.
Yeah. That's what I said. I mocked it. I mocked it for them potentially trading down. I'm picking the best player for their situation.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I like the player team fit there. This one is easy for me. My first pick of the draft. It's going to be Ashton Genty, and I with Mason Graham here, I had to think about it a little bit, but this match is made in heaven with Pete Carroll and Ashton Genty. We've seen the tea leaves about how the Raiders GM said his son, if they don't pick Ashton Genty, his son basically called him stupid. This just makes way too much sense, and I think he'd be a great fit for what Pete Carroll wants to do. He wants to run the rock. They do not have serviceable bodies there. Alexander Madison leaving in free agency. Whatever Zeus White is at this point, he's certainly not Zeus. So this just makes a load of sense here at 6 with Ashton Genty to the Raiders.
And now, Pat and Christian, I wanted to pose one question to you. So potentially with that, if the Jags were to move back to 10, that would be a trade with the Bears. Do you see something at all transpiring there?
Yeah,
I mean, absolutely. Go ahead, Christian.
Mason Graham. I would say Mason Graham is kind of the perfect trade partner if you're going to partner up with Jacksonville, maybe New England. It's pretty clear Ryan Poles has viewed him as a top 3 or 4 guy in this draft. Yeah. He said that. We got a clip of him saying that. So absolutely, if they can give up one of those second round picks and then maybe trade the other second round pick to get more draft capital later on, I would not mind at all going up and getting the best defensive interior in the draft, put him with Grady Jarrett, Javon Dexter. I think that's a really, really strong start to Ben Johnson's coaching tenure here.
Yeah, that would be the move.
Trade up for Genty at all?
Well, I was going to say, Turtle, that the Mason Graham move would be. I agree with Christian. That's what I would do if it were there for the Bears at 5. But I do see a lot of smoke right now with people talking about the Bears trading up for Ashton Genty. I don't see it. I don't see that happening.
That just sounds like cannon fodder, to be honest. I would rather the Bears. I mean, I don't know what the Bears are thinking, but I would rather the Bears take a Judkins or a Travion Henderson or one of those guys in the second. Yeah. But
yeah, I mean, if you can end up with Ashton Genty, if you can get him at 10, I could see them making that move. But even then, if it's Mason Graham or Ashton Genty, I think that Ryan Poles makes that move easy for Mason Graham. Again, maybe not the sexier pick, but Mason Graham is about as solid of a defensive tackle as you'll find in this draft. only knock against him is his length, but he makes up for that just with the way you watch him play. Stops the run, rushes the passer, does everything you need to do from a defensive tackle, and he'd fit right in. Just as we talked about, you can never invest too much on that defensive line. Having Billings, Dexter, Grady Jarrett wouldn't stop them from picking a guy like Mason Graham to be the future centerpiece of that defense. So, yep, I think that if they made that move, it would be for Mason Graham. And but I just wanted to say, Turtle, you talked about Spytek's son trashing him if he doesn't go with Genty. It reminded me of my pick here with the Jets and allowing children to invoke Madden ratings to determine whether or not to trade for a player. Hopefully they won't be using prospective Madden ratings to make this pick. A couple different directions they could go here, but I think, with Mason Graham still available, I think you do take Mason Graham. It's not necessarily a situation I expect to have happen because I don't know if Mason Graham's going to fall this far, but if he does, the Jets are in a position where they can pair him next to Quinnen Williams and have arguably the best young defensive interior in the NFL at that point. Roll Tide, by the way, on Quinnen Williams. And I think they make that move. Other plans be damned if Mason Graham falls that far. I don't think they let him fall any further than that. So they would go with Mason Graham.
Yep, great BPA pick there.
If it wasn't Mason Graham, who do you think it'd be?
Membo. Okay. I think you take Membo to pair him with Fashanu, and you got your two offensive tackles set up for the future.
Yeah, I mean that's the that's a position that they're going to be laser focused on going into this draft. So absolutely, Pat.
Yeah. So we'll move on. I think I picked for Carolina the last two times. Kind of explained myself then too. We're looking for a superstar who can kind of take the place of Frankie Louvu, kind of take the place of Luke Kuechly maybe. Hard to do, but I think it's a two-player race right here at 8. It's between the linebackers, Jalen Walker and Jahad Campbell. I'm going off the measurements. So I do like Jahad a little bit more than Jalen Walker, but I respect either pick. I think either one can go right here, but I like Jahad a lot. Like I said, if the ceiling is the ceiling, he could be a Will Anderson caliber player. But even still, he could be a Frank Louvu type player. I think that's the floor for sure.
So the Panthers go with Jahad Campbell instead of the Carolina guy that's right there in Jalen Walker. I mean, I could definitely see it if you're going off the measurables. Jahad Campbell, Roll Tide.
Just a little more bend. I see a little more
limitless potential. I don't think he's tapped into what he can be. I love the versatility of both those guys, but Jahad Campbell, the athletic traits just pop off the chart, so I can't argue that pick.
All right.
Yeah, I saw a play with Jahad Campbell. I mean, talk about a banshee running sideline to sideline. That guy can move. Definitely, I like the pick.
Yeah, I think his best position is still edge, even though he is an off-ball linebacker right now at the moment. I think that was really just to get on the field at Alabama. So we'll see what happens there. But I like Jalen Walker. I like Jahad Campbell at 8. Moving on to number 9, a bit of a shock here. I don't expect him to be available. But, yeah, I'm going to go quarterback. Even though it's not necessarily a need for the New Orleans Saints, I really think they should think about trading out of this pick. My last draft, I had them taking Genty because he fell here. Something that I was kind of thinking about is what if Cleveland swapped pick 33 with you and went and got Shedeur with Travis Hunter? Interesting. You'd probably have to give up a first, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. I think they take Shedeur, let him grow behind Derek Carr. Kind of have a competition with Shane Rattler, and then get Shane out the door. And then, I think some similarities to some Jalen Hurts. I like Jackson Dart too. He's been getting comps to Jalen Hurts a lot. Kellen Moore would like his own quarterback. I think this is a solid pick. He fits in New Orleans. And he has a chance to just kind of grow into it.
And Christian, I think that name you just mentioned, Kellen Moore, is a big reason why, if he's there, at 9 it would be a big reason why Shedeur Sanders would be a great fit for them. One to mold his own offense around his own guy, bringing him on. I think it would probably fit seamlessly with him.
Also, I don't know if Shedeur is the best or one of the best quarterbacks in this draft. I don't even know if he's technically a first-round talent, but I know damn well that if he gets drafted to the Saints, he's pushing Derek Carr for that job on day one. He's not worried about Spencer Rattler as a backup. I think he immediately supplants Spencer Rattler. And just by virtue of the tools, the high floor that is there with Shedeur Sanders, I think he competes with Derek Carr immediately. I disagree that they don't have an immediate need for quarterback. I don't think that Derek Carr is the answer if they want to be competing in the NFC South. I think pairing Shedeur Sanders with the new head coach, letting them grow together, is a great idea, but I think Shedeur Sanders is pushing for that job on day one.
Yeah, keep in mind playing in a dome too. Playing in a dome a lot. You played in a dome with the Saints. You played in a dome in Atlanta. Nice weather in Tampa and Carolina. That from that perspective, it makes a lot of sense. Like you could really throw the football around the yard if you play for one of those teams. So yeah, I'm with it there.
And especially one more note on that, a guy like Aaron Glenn, kind of being able to ease the pressure on who his offensive coordinator will be. Picking a guy like that, especially I think will be a culture setter for him.
Yeah, I think you flipped coaches there. It's Kellen Moore, but
Kellen Moore. I'm sorry, Kellen Moore. Yeah, my bad.
It's okay. But yeah, I like it. Also, fun fact: his over/under right now, Shedeur Sanders to be drafted is 8.5. So right there is where he went.
Yeah, I don't see how I think someone's going to trade up for him for sure. I think 9 is a pretty sweet spot if someone wants to trade.
Yeah,
I do think. How much money are you giving David or Derek? $40 million. I know it's a 1-year thing, but it is Kellen Moore's team. It's a tough pick here at 9. I wouldn't mind trading out, especially if a team wants to give you a first for next year.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Yeah, this is interesting for me. My second pick, I have the Chicago Bears. Seen a lot of Tyler Warren recently, especially with Mel Kiper, and I do like that a lot. But this guy has fallen a couple spots, and I know that this position group was addressed in the offseason, but I think this guy is a clear upgrade at a tackle spot. Armand Membu for the Bears. Keep solidifying those trenches. I did not think he would be here at 10. The fact that he is, just plug and play him. You can play him at guard if you need to. If Jonah Jackson, for some reason, is not what you traded for, you can play him at guard. If Braxton Jones, I know he's an okay tackle, but at the end of the day, I think this guy's got top 5 tackle upside, and him falling to 10, I think it's worth the shot compared to maybe taking a stab at Tyler Warren. I think you can address either tight end later in the draft or any of those other skill positions you can address with your 2 second-round picks. But a tackle as good as Membu falling to 10, I think that's a gift for the Bears. So you Bears fans, correct me if I'm wrong here. Do you think that would be a waste of a pick there?
Not at all.
No, I like it a lot.
And
I think so much potential to be the next left tackle of this team. I don't think you're not going to move Darnell Wright off that right side just because the name fits so perfectly. No, but because he's actually been quite solid there for the past 3 years. So I think that Braxton Jones, like you said, could use some competition. Membo doesn't have to start on day one. You can develop him. You can move him around on that offensive line. In the back, he'd be a valuable depth piece and potential Pro Bowl upside as well. So I would be very happy with the pick.
And just to add here, I had when I did the Jaguars pick, I had the star next to them, possibly going to 10. We'll see with these next upcoming picks, but someone trading up to get a tackle like Membu kind of early on in the first round. I had them taking McMillan, but later on in the draft, assuming I think they may trade out of that pick.
If the draft plays out like this and Membu doesn't go at 7, he's there at 10. Have him be a swing tackle for his first year, a depth piece. Every NFL team I think needs good 3 good tackles, because you don't know what's going to happen over the course of a year. and Membu can do that for year one. And if you gotta, move on from Braxton Jones at some point, or somebody gets hurt, he's too talented to pass up there.
Yeah, it's tough to think Jonah Jackson would play all 17 games. Too.
Right. Yeah.
That too.
Yep. So moving on to the Niners here, I'm going to go with a guy that a lot of people have as one of the more talented players in this draft. Could have gone a little bit earlier, but if he falls here, I could see the Niners going with Jalen Walker. They have a need at edge. They do have a need at linebacker now that Greenlaw is out of town. And so he fills either one of those needs. If you look at him, Robert Saleh is going to be building up that defense in his image, and Jalen Walker is a guy you could move around. He's a chess piece in that Micah Parsons mold. You could move him off ball. You could play him along the edge. You can kind of do what you want with him, but the football instincts are there. They're maxed out. The guy's a football player, knows how to play the run, knows how to rush the passer, all around great defensive piece. And, as they try to rebuild that team with how old they were just across the board and how they need to ship out some of these aging veterans, you get a guy in there with some flexibility and a guy who Robert Saleh can start to build that defense around.
Yeah, definitely think Saleh will max out his versatility. So I like that pick.
Up next, it's me with the Cowboys, and I think a precursor to this pick is also the fact that I think we could see some Joe Milton coming this next year. We'll see how everything plays out, how everything with Dak is going to be handled, but what they need is going to be someone who can complement as a 1-2 punch with CeeDee Lamb. Give whoever's going to be throwing the ball another option, and that's going to be Matthew Golden out of Texas. Guy can fly, a complement to what they have going on. Brian Schottenheimer taking over the spot there. Texas guy, Jerry stays within the state. Matthew Golden going to the Cowboys at 12. I think it's kind of a pick to just say, let's get this offense going again. And I think Matthew Golden goes to the Cowboys.
That's definitely higher than I thought he was going to go, but I would not put it past the Fighting Cowboys to do that. So,
yeah,
I've seen a lot of
smoke with that too.
Yeah,
I've seen a lot of connections to Matthew Golden to the Cowboys. So it's not an unfounded pick. He also fits perfectly with CeeDee Lamb. I think he's a perfect complement. No matter who's going to be throwing the ball, I anticipate that it won't be Joe Milton. As much as Cowboys fans might clamor for it, depending on Dak's situation, but
six foot can stretch the field with the ball in his hands. It gives him a whole nother weapon. I think with a healthy Dak Prescott, it's something they'd be looking into.
And Dak's not going anywhere because the no trade clause and the cap hit, but I definitely think he's going to miss some games. He usually does.
Yeah, especially recently. He was a very consistent player up until a couple years ago, but yeah, he's been on and off the field quite a bit. So moving on to the Dolphins here, a couple different directions they could go, but with the recent development that Teron Armstead, their multi-time Pro Bowl tackle, is retiring, I think the health of Tua Tagovailoa is paramount. You got to keep him upright. Roll Tide, by the way, is not a very mobile quarterback, not known for protecting himself. So you got to be the one to protect him. And I think the way you do that is taking the top offensive tackle on the board right now. Another Texas guy, 2 Texas players right in a row. That's going to be Kelvin Banks. And they're going to invest in him as the future on their offensive line, as their left tackle of the future, and hope to keep Tua Tagovailoa healthy, because that's going to be the game plan for this franchise going forward. If Tua is injured, we saw how low they can go. They don't really have a chance to compete. So, all of those flashy skill players on the outside can't do anything if it's Skylar Thompson throwing in the ball. Keep Tua healthy and get the top offensive tackle on the board at this point.
I just want to say that Banks has got to be, since the start of draft season, probably the biggest like variance / riser and faller I think I've seen from any mocks. I think he kind of started as a top 10 pick, and then as of a month ago was kind of getting picked in the 20s to late 20s, and now you kind of starting to see him rise back up again. But very interesting, kind of a polarizing player, but no doubt that the Dolphins need that desperately. So
You build the wall against the bull rush to protect your guy, and I like that pick for you, Pat. I got the Colts here at 14. Kind of foregone conclusion. I mean, just with the lack of depth and talent at this position, Tyler Warren, I think he honestly could go higher than this. I think honestly, the Dolphins probably may give him a look. But I think it's a nice security blanket for whether it's going to be Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones. With kind of a sketchy kind of pass catchers that they do have, a guy that can block, that can pass block, run block, and go catch the ball. For whoever's going to be throwing him the ball, Tyler Warren for the Colts there addresses a very desperate position that they have in the offense.
I think the Colts are sprinting that pick up to the podium. I think their fans are doing backflips.
Yeah.
Everybody wants Tyler Warren in Indianapolis. So this feels like a dream pick for the Colts.
If Tyler Warren goes earlier, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they took Loveland at 14. It's almost a foregone conclusion they're picking a tight end, right?
If it was going to be, if he was going to go Warren at 13, I was going to probably go Loveland at 14. I mean, it's just that's their red alert position.
Nobody has faith in Mo Alley Cox nowadays, huh?
A damn shame.
No. So yeah, I'm at pick 15. Couple really good guys on the board that I'm intrigued by. Obviously, Will Johnson's really interesting here. But to me, I think he's perfect for Atlanta. I think the jerseys would sell, and I think he's a perfect pairing with Michael Penix. Really seems like just a good fit for the city. He's been a star since high school. He's young, has ideal 5-tool multi-sport athlete. So Luther Burden is my pick for Atlanta. I think he's the perfect pick for him. But yeah, I do think Emin Will Johnson right there, also interesting. I just think with Michael Penix and the production he got out of Ray McLeod last year, I just think it's a perfect pairing. Go get Burden, send him to the Falcons.
Compliments Drake London perfectly, I think. Burden, very much an elite yak guy. Drake London, more of a possession receiver. I love those skill sets together. And then Mooney to stretch the field. That's a dangerous trio.
Yep, feels like a good pick. Feels like a high floor too. Another guy, Luther Burden, who has been performing, since he got onto campus in Columbia. So, you're getting if not a top flight wide receiver, you're getting a very solid number 3 at this point. He doesn't have to be a star, which I think
Shout out Darnell.
Sometimes shout out Darnell. Yeah, Mooney. Tough to see him go. He's kind of the one that got away with Chicago. They could certainly use him now, but I think Luther Burden doesn't have to be the star wide receiver on day one. Doesn't have to be even the wide receiver 2 in this scenario. So keep building that offense for Michael Penix. I like where their offensive line is at, so I don't think that they necessarily need to overdraft anybody here. But yeah, I like the pick. So moving on to my pick with the Cardinals. When you look at the Cardinals on the offensive side, it feels like they've invested quite a bit, and they've got pieces at each place where I think you have enough on that side of the ball for Kyler Murray to work with. I think the next step in the progression of this team, building their roster, is going to be really beefing up that defense for Jonathan Gannon to get to their full potential, to show what he can do, to kind of recreate the dominant defense that he had in Philadelphia. And I think the pick here is going to be Mike Green. Pair him with Josh Sweat and, guy that has arguably a very high floor, one of the highest floors of any edge rusher when you saw what he could do at Virginia, at Marshall. Some character concerns, but not every team is going to be like the Eagles and say we're never going to draft those guys. Somebody's going to take a flyer at a premium position like that. Mike Green doesn't have to be their best edge rusher because, again, they do have Sweat. But I think they continue to build that defense and go with Mike Green.
Okay. And I feel fortunate picking here at 17 for Cincinnati. I think most people would think they're probably looking at an interior defensive lineman, but they brought back B.J. Hill, brought in T.J. Slayton from Green Bay. They brought in Oren Burks, linebacker from Philly. I'm going to go Will Johnson here, even though I respect Jahdae Barron. New DC, Matt Golden, Notre Dame guy. I think he has a really good knowledge of the college game. And you turn on the tape with Will Johnson before he got hurt last year and the year before. He's been a star since he stepped foot on campus at Michigan. I think he's too good to pass up for Cincinnati. And I feel like Cincinnati could use all the defensive help they can in this year's draft. So all defense, I think, wouldn't shock me if they picked all defensive players with every draft pick they had.
Yeah, right now their starting left corner, I believe, is Josh Newton, TCU legend, and he had a lot of ups and downs last year. So get Will Johnson in there, he immediately shores that spot up.
Mike Hilton's still a free agent. They got Dax Hill, who I think he tore his ACL last year, and Cam Taylor-Britt on top of Josh Newton, DJ Turner. So they could definitely use some help there. I think Will has the opportunity to be a real shutdown corner too. So I like it.
Yep. I like that pick. You knew Will Johnson just with the tape he's put out. Maybe he's not going to be the fastest guy on the field, but he's got extremely high floor, great cornerback, natural football player, and in many eyes was a top 5 pick just a few months ago. So seeing him fall this far, I think that the Bengals are happy to take that talent. Moving on to the Seattle Seahawks, who in past drafts, no matter – yep.
Can I just say I said Matt Golden? I meant Al Golden. Shout out Notre Dame.
Al Golden. Yeah, okay, shout out. All right, so Al Golden is the on the correction for Christian. Seattle Seahawks have not invested in the interior offensive line or the offensive line at all, really, in these drafts. They seem to always go a different route. A couple directions they could go here, considering that they do have, a glaring hole at wide receiver after shipping DK Metcalf out of town and Tyler Lockett being cut. But I do think that they need to invest in that offensive line. You can't do anything if you can't block up front. Sam Darnold has shown you that he can really be an above-average quarterback and play well beyond anyone thought he would be able to if you can protect him. And if you can't protect him, you see him fall apart like he did against the Rams. So they need to invest up front if they're going to protect him. And I think at this point you take a guy who you can move all along that offensive line, whether it's at center, guard, played his college career at tackle. They go Gray Zabel here. Take him. I think he can play either of the interior spots. You kind of move him wherever you need to and watch him grow. Yeah, I think that, the gig is up. They have neglected this pick early on for too many years. It came back to bite them this past season with their lack of talent up front. So you start to invest in that up front offensive line, and you go with Gray Zabel.
I like it. What? Any thought on Roll Tide, Tyler Booker here?
Yeah, it's tough because you do have Clint Kubiak coming in with that wide zone running scheme. I think he's going to want more of an athlete at guard than Tyler Booker gives you. So I think they're going to go with Gray Zabel. I think they're going to go with the better athlete at guard. Tyler Booker, I respect the man. Obviously, Roll Tide, but it's going to take a specific fit and a team willing to work around some athletic limitations. to go with him. And I think that the safer pick here is Gray Zabel.
And I also think there's a lot of teams, especially further down in the first round, that have their eyes on guys like Tyler Booker, Josh Simmons, which will still be available.
All right.
I'm picking it.
I haven't picked. Wait, who's up right now? The Bucks?
Bucks,
I'm
Christian.
on the wrong screen. Oh, sorry, I was getting amped. I thought I was up with the Broncos. That's my bad.
Can someone just confirm what kind of defense Todd Bowles runs real quick? I think it's a 3-4. So
Yeah,
I didn't know.
It's. I mean, so much of the NFL is the sub packages right now, where that you got
blitz heavy 3-4
slot corner playing. Yeah.
So he likes to man up. Is that the case? It's a tough one for me. I mean, all three of these guys just scream Tampa Bay Buck right here at the top. Jade, Malachi, Donovan. You look at the biggest need here, I think because they took a flyer on Hassan Reddick, they don't necessarily have to swing for a edge rusher here in the first round. They might be able to wait a little bit and just add depth at that position. Huge fan of Tyke Smith, Antoine Winfield, stud. Man, it's tough, but I'm going to stick with my guy, and I hope Todd Bowles sees this. I'm going to go my guy, Nick Emenwari. I don't think he falls out of the teens. Superstar, has a chance to be a superstar. I know Antoine Winfield likes to play in the box, but he can play all over. You put him with Nick Emenwari, that might be the best duo day one at safety. So why not?
Yeah, when you put me on Emenwari, I've fully grown into a fan of his. I think he's going to be an amazing NFL player. So
Buccaneers are a team too that doesn't have too many weaknesses, so you can take a flyer on a guy like Emenwari and bet on that potential. So I really like the swing that they take there because once again they've masterfully built that offense. So go ahead and
everyone's back.
Swing big on defense.
Yeah, and my pick for the whole time was Emeka, but that was with Chris Godwin leaving. I didn't imagine he was going to take $20 million or not take $20 million to go elsewhere, but he did. So Nick's the pick right there.
Yeah, the vaunted hometown discount. Well, you don't have to look far for Emeka Egbuka because he's going to be my pick for the Denver Broncos at 20. He kind of seems like that last first tier of receivers left. And look, I love Marvin Mims. I think he ended the year great. Really showed some chemistry with Bo Nix, but he is definitely more of a field stretcher type receiver. And Courtland Sutton is obviously a bigger bodied, more possession guy. What I love about Emeka Egbuka is he's a blend of both. I think he slides perfectly into that second receiver spot. Talk about a smooth route runner. I think he doesn't have elite athleticism like maybe Matthew Golden does. He doesn't have elite speed, but he checks off every single box. He's very much. I kind of see him as a bigger Jackson Smith and Jigba, maybe slightly bigger, not obviously that much bigger, but he has a very, very high floor, I think. And I couldn't reach running back here for the Broncos. I think they'll address that later in the draft. It's a deep draft for that. I did think about Kenneth Grant, but Egbuka's the last kind of, I think, first tier of receiver, and he's got to go here, or else you're going to have to take a guy that's in the second or third tier later on in the draft. So I think this makes a ton of sense here, the Egbuka.
Sure.
Yeah. Kind of a jack of all trades, master of none, but you don't really need him.
I agree. A
burner. He's a solid NFL wide receiver on day one, which
I think
those
that's
are the type of guys that Sean Payton wants to fill that roster out with.
Yeah, I think that's look, it's not a receiving room at that point. It's going to blow your socks off, but I think the receiving room of Courtland Sutton, Marvin Mims, and Emeka Egbuka can certainly be very productive. And I think they all have they all have skill sets that blend nicely. So.
Yeah. Yeah, so I got Pittsburgh at 21. So many guys that I love for Pittsburgh, especially defensive guys here. God, so many. I love Omarion too, but because Aaron Rodgers is pretty much hamstringing the potential suitor, they got to go Jackson Dart, which, sucks because Aaron Rodgers could actually help make them take somebody else at 21 if he just made a decision. I know it's his life. I get it. Maybe he's waiting for Minnesota, but you're kind of screwing.
He's waiting for the headlines.
Maybe.
Yeah, he's waiting for somebody
screwing
to
the team.
He's waiting for the Jeopardy job to open.
I think they know they're going to sign him. I don't think it stops them from taking Dart here. I like the pick. I think it gives you the flexibility to take Dart, let him sit for a year.
But you got Malachi and Jade and Ezeraku and Kenneth Grant. Like, there's so
many.
None
of them are quarterbacks.
That's the reason. That's the point. If Aaron Rodgers made the decision, this team, they need a corner. I don't know if you can trust Darius Slay next year.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can trust Joey Porter Jr. next year. And then Deshaun Elliott and Minka are obviously great safeties. I feel like Cam Hayward, how many years does he have left? Kenneth Grant would be the perfect guy to get in the room with Cam Hayward before it's all said and done. And Aaron Rodgers is hamstringing a team he's interested in. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. But Jackson Dart, love his deep ball. I think he is battling for QB2 in this class. If he falls at 21, Pittsburgh really can't pass up. And then the DK Jackson Dart connection to Ole Miss. They'll be chucking the ball, I'm sure.
Yeah. Just one last thing, because I'm a huge Aaron Rodgers hater. I don't think that guy is giving a hoot's holler about the team in a number of years. I think he's very much I care about Aaron Rodgers. So I don't know. I just don't like the guy, to be honest. I think he's a fraud.
At this point, I just don't get it. I just don't get what you're trying to accomplish here. If you want to wait for the Minnesota job, I don't think
he's
it's
not
headlines.
waiting for the Minnesota job. He's waiting. He wants his name in the news, and that people are going to be watching more right around draft time. He's going to sign. It was right around the draft that he got traded, had the agreement in place with the Jets. He wants as many eyes on him as possible. I think he has an agreement in place with the Steelers. There's nothing to wait on. There's no other spots available for him. The Vikings are going to go with J.J. McCarthy. The Vikings have said as much.
They've said for now.
I don't think that they're going to.
If that job opens up,
Aaron's
going to jump ship and he's going to go to Minnesota. If they say we need you,
he'd like to, sure, but I don't think they're going to say the job's not going to open up.
And that's why I think that's what he's waiting on. I think that's what he's waiting on. I don't think
they believe in J.J. McCarthy. I think he's waiting on more eyes to be on the NFL when it comes draft time. Right around the draft is when he's going to sign, and it's not going to mess up their draft position or their draft strategy because they know that they're going to have him. There's no other game in town for him to go to. It's going to be the Steelers. Book it. I would bet any amount of money on it that Aaron Rodgers will be a Steeler, and they very likely still could draft Jackson Dart because it's going to be a year-to-year situation, and that's also a situation where Jackson Dart doesn't have to start on day one. I think it's going to be – I don't know what exactly we're arguing about beyond that Aaron Rodgers will be the starting quarterback of the Steelers in 2025.
And the fact, and just to add to the fact that it's Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson making up the rest of the depth chart. I think it's a smart pick there.
Yeah. Do we think there's any chance, just real quick to wrap up the Steelers since it's intriguing, any chance that Milroe goes here instead of Dart because of Milroe getting the draft invite? And I don't know. I know that I heard smoke early in the offseason that the Steelers like Milroe. Is there any chance that he goes here at 21? And if not, do you think that they'd probably go with him in the second round or something along those lines?
They traded their second rounder, so I think that's the option in the third round if they can get best player available here at 21. If as Pat mentioned, if they did get the verbal agreement from Aaron already, and they know they don't have to take a quarterback here at 21, as I mentioned, Jade, Starks, Ezeraku, Grant, all day one contributors to a defense that's pretty solid already. I'd much rather use that pick there at 21, wait for Milroe in the third, and then see what you got there. But
I was going to say, I'd rather I like Dart, but I think he's at a meteoric rise in a way. And if I were building an NFL team, I would rather take one of those 4 guys that are on the board and that you just mentioned and roll the dice and hope I get Milrow in the 3rd.
Yeah.
And they did go ahead and pick up Juan Thornhill and Brandon Eccles to address kind of, some of the stuff that was going on, the weakness of their defense, which was the secondary. So, I mean, I see the pick there, Christian.
Yeah. Milrow also, just to say, Milrow feels like a guy, Roll Tide, by the way, that you'd be upset with if your team reached on him in round 1, but if you get him in day 2, you're very happy with him to develop.
It's a dice roll.
Swing on him. Yeah. Quintessential day 2 quarterback that you'd be happy with because he becomes the best athlete on the field when he decides he wants to run the ball. But when he decides he wants to pass the ball, who knows what's going to happen? It's probably not going to be anything good. But unless Ryan Williams is on the other side.
Yeah, I've got a nice string of picks coming up here. So this is where I'm going to make my heyday. I believe Mike may have been the one in our first mock draft. I don't know if it was Kenneth Grant. I know it was one of these Michigan defense tackles.
Yeah.
But this just smells like Kenneth Grant with Harbaugh at this point. I love Kenneth Grant's game. This shores up a spot in their defensive line. Obviously, they lost Joey Bosa. Again, not the same type of defensive lineman, but look, they need some bodies there. They were lucky to get Khalil Mack back for a season. But I think adding Kenneth Grant makes that room much more full. And it's a Harbaugh guy. And Harbaugh is going to draft a Harbaugh guy. So that's where I'll go with there. Now, the run on the receivers here with the Packers made things really interesting because I would have loved to have taken a receiver here for the Packers, but it was the first time they drafted a receiver in the first round in a long time. But with this board, the way it's playing out, Jahdae Barron has got to go here. I think they need someone opposite why am I blanking on his name right now?
Jair,
yeah.
I think Jair might be out of town, but I think Jahdae Barron seems like the best slot corner in the draft by far. So
yeah.
Well, they added Nate Hobbs from Vegas, who's a slot. So I think they
one of the better slots too. Yeah, he's one of the highly rated slots on PFF. But
I could definitely see him there. I like that pick.
Yeah. Well, Jair also. I don't think he's getting that old, but he's getting up there, and he's got his antics going. So
his knee is a problem too.
Yeah. So I mean, people are talking about Jahdae Barron like he's the best corner in the draft.
Yeah.
Better than Will Johnson at this point. So getting him at 23, I think, is a good pick. All right, Minnesota now. I feel like I'm being really, really chalky and square ball, but I think I'm going to go an away BPA here and go Donovan Ezeraku. Again, the most talented edge, I think, left on the board. 14 sacks last year. I believe he was one of the highest in pass pressures as well. Very disruptive guy. And I know they've got Grenard and Van Ginkel, I think, is their other main pass rusher, but he's kind of a I don't want to say he's mainly a pass rusher. I feel like he kind of plays all over the field. Ezeraku, I think he fills kind of a bit of a void there on the defensive line for Flores. You talk about Van Ginkel, Ezeraku, and Grenard now.
Dallas Turner as well. Roll Tide.
Yeah, Dallas Turner as well. I honestly forgot about him. I feel like he kind of went on a milk carton a little bit, but
Yeah, can never have too many great edges.
You talk about a guy who fits the Brian Flores mold, especially someone who's going to fit right in, be a day one starter for exactly what they're looking for and getting pressure with those front four.
I think they could play around with it a lot. I mean, Grenard's obviously a great player. He was a good player in Houston. Van Ginkel moves around a ton. I think you can do the same thing with Ezeraku with his athleticism. Dallas Turner, I could see moving around. I mean, Flores does some really weird stuff on the defensive line. So, I mean, imagine you get all those guys out in the field together on a for sure passing down, and all of a sudden Dallas Turner's matched up on a guard, man. That is a mismatch. That is a mismatch.
Yeah.
So,
and speaking a little bit more to Ezeraku, interesting that Jeff Hafley came from Boston College, the DC and Green Bay.
Yeah.
I don't know how much overlap they had, but maybe he is in love with Donovan. Maybe he takes him at 23 right there.
Yeah.
I thought about that. I didn't put the two connection there together, but I was about to go Ezeraku. I mean, you could honestly flip flop these picks, Jedi Baron and Ezeraku, and I think you could make a case for either of them. So, but yeah, I mean, you could also make the case that either of these guys go higher too. So I'm kind of just picking. I feel like I'm picking up scraps right now on the draft board, but that's fine.
Yeah, so right here I got the Texans pick. I know Turtle's got a microscope on me right now. I'm looking at, we can all agree that their most needed position to address is going to be on the offensive line. Right here I do have it as kind of a coin flip. I don't want to pick the wrong guy and piss Turtle off.
Pick what your heart desires, man.
I know, but with kind of the offensive revamps, that they have done, picking up Cam Robinson. I know Turtle's not the biggest fan of him. I wasn't the biggest fan of him on the Browns. It's you address a little bit of what I think will be a depth piece for them. Right here, I mean, I'm looking at a power player, great athlete who can be a plug-and-play start day one, and that's going to be Tyler Booker for me for the Houston Texans. I know Josh Simmons is right there, but yeah, Tyler Booker for me for the Houston Texans. They've done all they can, I think, in free agency to revamp the offensive line. I mean, unless you want to start spending millions of dollars. But I think, the one knocking him, I think he isn't – I think Simmons probably is the better athlete. But, I went Tyler Booker here, get you a body on the offensive line, someone that's going to protect C.J. Stroud, help the run game. Turtle, as the resident Texans fan, I mean, what do you think of that pick?
Yeah, well, I like the pick. Honestly, again, when we were mocking early in the year, Tyler Booker seemed like a for sure first-round pick. And, granted, he didn't have the best combine. The Texans don't really care about combine stuff, so it makes a ton of sense. I think guard's way more of a need than tackle is at this point. And you can say what you want about Cam Robinson or Trent Brown. I mean, either of those guys, they might not be along for the ride. They're good depth pieces. But, look, we got another year of Blake Fisher. If you do kick out Titus to left tackle – Tyus Howard, that is, then yeah, I mean, you've got to fill left guard, and then I mean, even your right guard at that point, like you're going to trust, Juice Scruggs or somebody else. I mean, they definitely need bodies there, and I think Tyler Booker is going to be a very solid guard in the NFL. So I definitely don't hate the pick. I mean, I've seen every single offensive lineman mocked to us here, and I like Josh Connerly probably the most of the tackles that are left. Josh Simmons having a patellar tendon tear, and I've heard some questionable stuff about his work ethic. That kind of concerns me. That doesn't seem like a Texans pick. So if it's not Connerly, I'm totally fine with Tyler Booker here. People can call it a reach. I think it's a good pick. I think he's going to be a solid pro. So you did good, Mike.
Yeah, I like raising the floor on that Texans offensive line.
Yeah.
And Tyler Booker feels like a very safe pick there. Guy, high IQ, loves to play the game. Yeah, great pick. Roll Tide, by the way.
As D'Amico is, he wants swarm players, and I think Tyler Booker is a swarm player. He is a swarmy guard.
Yeah.
So
as swarmy as a guard can be.
And that's right. We didn't have a lot of those past year.
For Mr. Ryan's Roll Tide for D'Amico as well. And so we move here to the Rams, who I think are very happy with how this is shooken out. I mean, they want to build on their defense, but I think a major need with Tyler Higbee coming off a knee injury, going into a contract year. He's 32 years old. They're going to have to look at the future of that position, and having the clear-cut second-best tight end in this draft fall to them with Colston Loveland here. I think they make this pick. Size, athleticism, he's a mismatch. You could play him in the slot. You could play him along the line. Some growing to do maybe in the body. 245 is he could grow a little bit for sure. put on a little bit of weight, but I think he fits perfectly with what the Rams are going to try to do, and they are looking for the future at that position. So I think they go Colston Loveland and prepare to have Tyler Higbee, for all he's done for that organization, say farewell.
I totally forgot he was on the board, and Mike, you totally should have picked Colston Loveland for the Texans.
I got to be honest. I absolutely, with all my heart, despise Dalton Schultz.
Yeah, so do I. I mean,
yeah.
You could ask Mike what my texts were this weekend about Dalton Schultz, because we had our dynasty draft, and I had Dalton Schultz in my dynasty team, and I offloaded him for like a fifth. I'm like, I just can't stand having this guy on my team. I can't stand him. He's a soft coward. He plays football like a pansy. I can't stand him. He is not Swarm. Get him out. I'd love to.
That neck thing he wears, dude. I know players do, like Drew Tranquil does too. Respect for it, but the fact that he wears it, dude, everything.
He wears it and doesn't use it. Like Tony Pollard, he's way smaller and he's banging his head every single time he runs the football. And Tony Pollard wears it. I don't know why Dalton Schultz wears it, because he's too scared to hit anybody. Sorry, that's my rant. I'm done.
Dalton, if you're watching, Dalton, I support you. I appreciate you.
Even if you're watching Dalton, Turtle lives at Turtle is at 40 East. Yeah.
Start blocking harder, and then you won't hear me talk shit. Start blocking harder. Sorry, got me fired up there. And Mike should pick Loveland.
I know. I was looking at your.
I like Booker, but yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So I think this is a no-brainer here at 27. I mean, safety to the team of safeties. You got to get Starks. The only real hole that they had, I feel like, at the end of last year was at safety. They kind of had to play Marlon Humphrey all over the place. They had to play, I think, Kyle Hamilton a little bit more nickel than they wanted to. Now he can still play in the box. Humphrey can still play. They added Chidobe Awuzie from Tennessee. And, yeah, I think he fits like a glove. He probably starts over Ardarius Washington, him and Hamilton, another elite safety duo. I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. I like Ardarius Washington, but he's a 5'8" safety. I mean, he's a great third safety. You need an extra DB out there, but and all his PFF stats are surprisingly really good. But Malachi Starks at 27. I think that's a steal for the player you're getting. That's a classic Ravens pick.
I love what it also allows you to do with Kyle Hamilton. Move him up front, make him more of a chess piece, while a guy like Starks is able to play center field. I think they complement each other very well.
Yeah.
All right, here we go with the Lions. Oh, geez, this is one that I did not see the board shaking out like this. This may feel like a bit of a reach, but he's very intriguing, and he hasn't gone yet. Mykel Williams, has he gone?
Nope.
I like that pick. Okay. Yeah, Mykel Williams here for the Lions. You talk about a team that needs an edge rusher. I think he has one of the highest ceilings of any of the guys left on the board when it comes to edge rushers. I think that the Lions will be able to get the most out of him. Fills an immediate need. It's a kind of a boomer bust play, I feel like, but at 28, I think it's worth it. You got to take risks when you're at the back end of the draft like that. So.
Yeah, and this was a guy who was projected to be a top pick, maybe number one pick in this draft as of a year ago. Very high floor as a run defender. Didn't have a lot of production this past year, but you got to keep in mind he was playing with just a pack of dogs at Georgia. So, he could get lost in the shuffle a little bit, but I love it. Doesn't have to be a world beater apart from Hutchinson. He can be the second best edge rusher on that team. Yeah. I like the pick.
He kind of reminds me of who's that guy from Jacksonville that took first overall? Travon Walker, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. He kind of reminds me of him. I mean, both Georgia Bulldogs, obviously, but very similar. Not a lot of sack production, but very intriguing from an athletic standpoint for both of them. So,
For this next pick, I had a couple of guys, here for the Commanders. I really thought, I feel like if they really did want a guy like Emeka Egbuka, for a guy to complement, Debo Samuel, help out with that receiving core. I think that's a guy maybe you see them, offload some picks to trade up for. Right here, though, addressing, just a solid need that they have. I was thinking Mike Green. I could see him falling with the 2 sexual assault allegations that he is facing. If he were
put it
available
up there for him, Mike.
I'm just saying it could complicate his draft outlook. Am I
No
speaking
character concerns. We just start reading the rap sheet here.
exactly. But
No, go ahead.
no, right here. No, I'm gonna go James Pierce for the Commanders. Addressing a much needed position for them, which I think is edge. I think his range honestly is closer to maybe higher 20s. We'll see. I mean, it's a dynamic pass rush. It's a guy that would fit into a Dan Quinn defense. I'm going James Pierce here for the Commanders. There could be, there's a lot that could shake up, before this pick to where it's different. I'm picking the best player for who I think what their biggest need is, and that'd be James Pierce.
yeah, I thought about Pierce for the Lions as well. I just feel like Mike Williams is more of a Dan Quinn pick. I like James Pierce here, though. That seems like the right range for him and the right team.
Loads of potential. I was going to strongly consider Pierce with my next pick. I think, there are a lot of questions, maybe character concerns, maybe playing the run, but what he does best is rush the passer, and he's maybe one of the best pure pass rushers in this draft. So if you can get him towards the back end of the first round, if you're one of these top teams in the league, putting in a piece like that who has double-digit sack potential year in, year out, can't be a bad pick. I think you take him. You let the lowered stock maybe falling a little bit. You let it humble him. You let it motivate him. And you get him serious for the NFL. And I think he could be a serious threat off the edge. So that's a great pick. It was going to be my pick if he'd fall into the Bills here at 30. I think they are looking to upgrade along that defensive line, get another piece for McDermott to plug in there along the edge. And I think similar to Pierce, where you want to bet on the athleticism, bet on the talent, and bet on a guy who's just scratching the surface of what he can be as an edge rusher. I think you swing on the upside and you go with Shamar Stewart here. A couple different directions you could go along the edge, but at this point, you're a team that is already ready-made to compete. So you take a guy who, once again, the production was not there. I understand 4.5 sacks in his career, I believe, is something extremely low.
Yes,
but,
stupid.
Danielle Hunter did exist. Myles Garrett had some production questions at Texas A&M. But the common thread between all of these guys is that they are absolute athletic freaks. And Shamar Stewart is about as athletic as a guy could be at 6'6", pushing 300 pounds. Just looks like if you painted an edge rusher, if you thought one up in your mind, it's just the perfect build for an edge rusher. I think McDermott loves it, and McDermott goes with him there at 30.
RAS scored to the moon for Shamar Stewart. I think it's I think it's a 9.9 or a 10. I don't know exactly what it is, but I would imagine it's that high.
It's not going to be his statistical production that gets him drafted. It's going to be that combine, and it's going to be the traits, which, boomer bust traits. They could be very bad for an edge rusher, but, you have your Miles Murphys that don't work out, but hopefully the alliteration works out with Shamar Stewart instead, because sometimes those traitsy pass rushers, athletes, end up working out big time, so they're going to bet on that.
Yeah. All right, I think I'm up here now. I think it's my last pick. And this is interesting because there's a guy that I really like for the Texans that's available, but there's also a super high upside player that I think the Chiefs are going to get enamored with. So give me Josh Simmons, tackle from Ohio State. Look, tackle was a huge need for the Chiefs this past year. This is a very risky pick because of what I mentioned earlier, the patellar tendon tear. But you talk about a guy that I think if he was healthy all year, didn't have the knee injury, could have possibly been a top 15 pick in this NFL draft. The Chiefs are able to snag him at 31. And the Chiefs will probably make him a perennial Pro Bowler. But Josh Simmons to the Chiefs, any qualms about this? They desperately need attack. I think they're kind of like the Texans. They need interior O line in a way, and they need tackles as well. So
Yeah, my only thing is if this guy Omarion is there, oof.
yeah,
I just hope he doesn't end up there.
boy, the fantasy managers are going to go nuts there. That might be like Clyde Edwards-Helaire type fantasy mania, I should say. About people saying Clyde Edwards-Helaire's rookie year was like should be the first running back taken off the board.
Yeah.
That's what the type of hype Hampton would get if he went there. But I think the potential of Josh Simmons is, and it's too much of a need. I think they got to go tackle with him there.
Another thing about Simmons, too, with the questions of his work ethic, questions of maybe loving the game, you know what will make you work a little harder and maybe love the game a little more? Play for the current best organization in the NFL, playing for maybe the best quarterback of all time in Patrick Mahomes, being his starting left tackle. If that doesn't motivate you, I don't know if you're made out to be a football player. So to the degree that Josh Simmons wants to play in the NFL and wants to be an offensive tackle in the NFL, this feels like the best possible situation for him to fall in.
Yeah. And don't forget, Andy Reid was an offensive line coach at the start of his career. I mean, I think he's a little bit in ways kind of a whisperer in those regards, kind of like Jeff Stoutland for the Eagles as well. I think Andy Reid can get the most out of his offensive line. We've seen him do that plenty. So,
and I also think you kind of put up a, you hold the picture up to a guy like Josh Simmons and say, why did we lose that Super Bowl? Why did we have the questions we had going into the playoffs? It was the tackles on our offensive line, and say you can be that guy that steps up and makes a difference for him. So, no, I think it's a really good pick there. And with the Eagles to round out the draft, with the trade of C.J. Gardner-Johnson, I had Nick Manawari here for the Eagles. Replace him with a safety, or who I think they could slot in as a safety to do a lot of things. Sidney Brown is still there for them, so I'm not sure, but I think Manawari already went in our draft.
Yep.
The next guy I had here for them was James Pierce. Just addressing more issues on the defense and holes they want to plug at this point for them. So I think with the final pick for the Eagles, I'm going to go. What am I thinking here?
sounds like all of your guys got snagged, is what it sounds like.
They really did. I was holding out, dude.
You can't really go wrong. I mean, they're a team that just needs depth, right? I mean, take the BPA.
They did lose Milton. They lost Milton. They lost CJ. They lost Darius Slay. They lost. They could obviously use a third receiver.
Yeah, I mean, I
possibly use a successor to Lane Johnson at some point too.
I like Sharon Revel here, but honestly, part of me is thinking right here for them was going Josh Connerly, to kind of set up to be Lane Johnson's replacement. I mean, that would be the pick for me here. I believe Connerly already went though.
No,
Nope.
No, he didn't.
I mean, give me Connerly, just because of how, I mean, look at the success that you've gotten. I don't think he's ready to be a starting NFL right tackle right now. So I think what you could do with him is move him to guard and then kind of, set up that, predecessor for Lane Johnson. Yeah, I mean, I think it builds right into what they're going to do. You still have Saquon under contract. You already know what their bread and butter is. Yeah, I like Connerly here for the Eagles.